Well. Hi, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Hello. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Tania LaCaria, and I'm one of the members of the Apostolaeus Collective, and I want to thank you so much for coming to our artist talk tonight. You will find out what Apostolaeus and the transmission that we are showing at the Cotton Factory right now is. But first, we're so grateful to be able to have this conversation moderated by Lianne Barwin. Lianne is an artist, a creative, and an immersive designer experience. I knew I was going to botch that. That's okay.
You got it. You got all the words.
I got all the words. She's going to explain what that is a little bit better. But I do invite you to get comfortable, enjoy all the visuals and the conversation, and we will have a Q&A at the end, so stick around if you care to join. Otherwise, Lianne, you're up. You're the professional. You take over.
Thank you. Yes. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for taking time this evening to come and join us on this artist talk. It's a great opportunity, I think, for all of us to come together, speak about what happened. It's almost been a year, actually, since the event, the transmission we're going to refer to it as, happened almost to the day a year ago. And this is actually what we see are the artifacts, the outcome of what was produced during that time. And what we're going to have the wonderful opportunity to do this evening is hear from these artists who have collaborated so beautifully, understand the method, understand the inspiration, understand even some of the actual functional process of which they went through to produce this wonderful show that we're actually able to envision here in the space today. I actually need a second sheet. I don't know where the other one went to. But there's an additional sheet. I just wanted to make sure that we're going to do a quick run through of intros. Thank you.
We got great editors.
We love great editors. And actually that's really speaks to what you do is you do work on the fly so well.
We do, yeah.
And what we're going to do a real quick run through of our panel. And it's going to be an introduction of the team that's at Apostolaeus. So I'm going to start with Steve. Sure. Steve Deeps, as he refers to himself. I'll let him introduce himself. He is actually the musician and the director at Cobalt Creates. He's a production lead and audio effects specialist here at Apostolaeus.
I am. Yeah.
Welcome.
Thank you.
And we also have Danielle. Danielle, you're going to have to Dani, whatever we prefer. Yeah. If you want to just give us a little overview of your role here at Apostolaeus.
So my name is Danielle, or Dan, or Dani, or whatever you want to call me. It's all good. And I am the co-lead with Steve on Apostolaeus, and I play piano, and I do a lot of the graphic work for the promos. And
Okay, great. And we'll go with Ryan. Ryan, if you don't mind introducing yourself and your role with Apostolaeus to the crowd here.
Sure. My name is Ryan Barwin, and I play the pedal steel guitar. My contribution to Apostolaeus, partly technical, partly conceptual in terms of the music and the content and the approach. I'm a free improviser.
Wonderful. Well, thank you. And thanks again for taking the time this evening to join us. And I think what was really captivating to me when this concept was introduced is that there's nothing that has been premeditated. There's nothing that's scripted. It's very much a play off of each of your energies. And I think maybe what we're going to do is just speak to you, Steve, if you don't mind, and just a quick kind of, if you can share with us about this kind of space that we're in, because there's a lot to be said as well, not just for what it is that you're creating, but the space in which you're creating from.
Absolutely.
The Cotton Factory here, I think this was, you had mentioned to me in 2020, this was when you actually started kind of collaborating. Can you speak to what it is about being in this type of space and how that lends itself to the type of collaboration that evolved into what you see here today?
Well, it kind of was born out of us. We did a charity event out of the Mule Spinner. Danielle played piano and I played guitar that day. And then we kind of got to just hang out after because Glenn Marshall, who owns the Mule Spinner, we were just kind of getting to know each other. So just kind of the hang is really a lot of what can drive innovation, I find. So Danielle was just playing piano and I was behind that that mixer there, and I was just playing around, starting to add reverb and starting to do little things, and then I made everything squawk and make like a absolutely terrible sound. And I was like, oh, I should probably just leave her alone. We knew each other pretty well then, but I shouldn't be getting in her way as a piano player. But we weren't performing at that time. We were just kind of hanging out in the mule spinner. And then I kind of backed away, and she's like, no, what was that? Do that again. And in that moment, this project was born.
Oh, wow.
You can't. You need those opportunities to just kind of be in a space like that.
Right.
And then if I might go further, just like in terms of community and being here. When you get, people are running their businesses and trying to collaborate too. There's money on the line, there's equipment, there's all sorts of stuff. And it can get a little prickly sometimes and a little sticky. And us coming back here after a little while, and we kind of haven't been hanging out that well, speaks to the importance of healing amongst artists communities, small communities. And, it's not easy doing this. And we're all a bunch of maniacs. We really are. We're just like, we're all, kind of driving in all sorts of different directions, So as I've kind of in the 30 years I've been playing music, and in the last 15 more professionally in production, forgiveness and understanding each other and getting through that for the sake of art being able to be created still. So being back here means something to me today, and being welcomed the way I was with the folks who I used to work with a little bit, but our careers had to go off, and I went off to Cobalt, and rival factions in so many terms, but screw that.
Right.
Like having room to kind of have that camaraderie and that, not everybody gets the same contracts, but you still got to care about each other. We're still in the fight together,
Yes.
So that's part of like what I'm kind of cherish about these communities. And you have to persevere. You have to forgive each other.
Yeah.
You have to take care of each other, or you're not getting anywhere.
Yeah,
as
and
far as I'm
I think
concerned.
I think that's actually, to speak to the healing part, I think that's really important. And that healing doesn't happen necessarily kind of very linear and only on the positive end. Like you spoke to that there are a lot, you said maniac was the word, but that I derive from that there are a lot of emotions, there are a lot of opinions.
Every day.
And you have to learn as adults as well. I mean, like in school, we do that with children. We ask them to all get along, but here we are in this space, everyone's pursuing their own type of vision. And you spoke to how that's very healing, and I think this is a wonderful example that so many people can hopefully follow on collaboration and evolving that into art. So I love that. Thank you for sharing that about this being that kind of space. Danielle, if you don't mind, I'd like to just also speak a little bit to how this, and also as Steve introduced here, is an evolving process, right? So this is not something that is going to stay stagnant. It's going to be ever changing. And how are you seeing this kind of evolving now? Like you've kind of brought it here, you see where it's been. Do you have a vision, or are you scripting, or are you kind of charging towards a certain vision for this, or where do we go from here?
It's done something that I didn't even think it was going to do. So I'm very happy with what it's already becoming as a catalyst for bringing people together and being able to communicate without words in a way in this under this umbrella of sender and receiver, and to be in that energy of people and vibe off of everybody and everybody bringing a different skill to and so I think as the people come into the project and add with their gifts to the project as well, it's going to morph into beautiful things. I see potentially, like, I'm scared to say this, but right now it's a human thing. Like we're still using technology, and we're using instruments, and we're using things to create this. It's still very human, but I can see that like if Jim was here, he would be able. Jim is up north. He's here. Like he's with. He's up north, alive. He's up north. Yeah.
He's in charge. He's in charge of the visual manipulation.
Jim is involved with the visual effects, and he also has transcends kind of interests. So creating music that can be felt with haptics.
Okay.
And so I feel like right now we're using the senses of sight and hearing, and there's a chance that we can incorporate other senses into it.
Love that.
And so I see really like a big place for it to go right. I don't know.
I mean, I love that. I love that you're calling out it being a very human thing, and let's address, what is kind of rolling in the tide that's coming through. It's AI, and not only that, but there's just so much in terms of digital, and I don't want to dismiss the value of digital and something that is kind of not seen within the space, but revealed through different mechanisms, be it screens or glasses. But I think there's a lot to be said that our current status is that people are maybe a little tired of that and love this return to what it is to be in a space and have that immersion. But so many senses being engaged, and I love that you're calling out the haptics. That's another way. Is there another side? Like, would you ever do scent or like
Sure,
pair
why
maybe a
not?
chef or
Yeah,
something?
Maybe. Yeah. It can definitely we've thought of like we welcome a spoken word person to. We're just getting going. Like this
Yes.
we've only just done 2 captures, and now this is our first in-person transmission. We did a transmission in 2020 over live feed on YouTube.
Okay.
And so you can catch that, and it's but yeah, a dancer or it doesn't have to be just one thing. We can have multiple things, because it is kind of like after the Casbah, somebody came up and said it was like watching jazz in a way, like the improvisation of jazz, but watching it as well. Like
Right.
not just hearing it, but
Right.
watching it and run through Tania's filter. It was really beautiful.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that's, and we'll be speaking with Tania very soon about that. I'm just going to have a very quick chat. And Ryan, if you don't mind to share your perspective too on this, I just want to say that's just lovely. I love that you're expanding. I think expansion is a great place to be. And obviously to whatever capacity, maybe afterwards, if folks are a little bit interested in how to be involved, I'm sure that you would all entertain how we can become a participant in this. So Ryan, we spoke a little bit in advance of this, and we were talking a little bit about how everyone is bringing their own unique craft, their own artistry to this conversation. And I'm wondering, like, while you're doing that, obviously you're blending, and the word transmission is beautiful, and I think it's the play back and forth, this kind of tango that you all have among one another. But how do you remain an individual and make sure that the expression of your particular craft is coming through in a way that you would want it to resonate?
For me, working on this project, one of the important things was to be able to sort of put aside what I would normally do and to kind of see my own artistic voice as secondary to kind of the needs of the collective. I feel that with my instrument, like, it's not necessarily a blank canvas for creating music, because there are so many kinds of stylistic cliches and associations that are tied to the sound. For me, one of the important ways to really separate myself from that was to be able to break musical ideas into small pieces.
Okay, interesting.
And to be able to have kind of a common language to communicate with the other musicians and artists involved, to be able to have these ideas be expressed on different instruments and visually and kind of rhythmically in terms of the pacing of the video editing.
Right. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, being able to receive as well as transmit is essential in this, and putting your own kind of ego aside is really important to that process.
Right. I mean, I feel that's quite involved, as much as, because any artist knows that flow state is very much output, but to have to constantly also play with the input and translate that and then continue on with that flow. So do you find that this is something that, and anyone can answer this, that was something you had to level into, and are you getting better? Is it like a muscle that you're flexing?
I think it's the very nature of the project. Like, Ryan will be playing, and I've got effects that will affect him, so nobody ever really gets their way. you know?
So it's a compromise.
Yeah, and somebody the cameras. Sometimes we have moving shots. It's like Jim will be manipulating those images, so you can frame your shot all you want, but he's gonna turn it, right? So you can't be precious about too much of what you're kind of going after.
Yeah.
So by the very nature of the project, kind of forces you to kind of react in
Yes.
real time
And be in the flow.
yeah, I don't know. You don't have a choice.
Yeah. I mean,
It's
and
not
that's
by design. Well, it's not. It's by its nature, not by design, I guess.
right.
Yeah.
The nature of the actual collaboration. And I think, obviously we can see the result of what happened last year. This is actually the piece that was evolving over time, over the course of, how long was it, an hour that you were all together? Two sets.
About 2 hours.
So 2 hours, okay. So this is the product after 2 hours, and this is your response, right? And I mean, I would love for you to speak to our audience about what you do. I think it's absolutely captivating, and you speak through your intuitive nature. You allow that to kind of flow through and channel, rather than me explaining it. How about you let the folks know, but then also really maybe share with us a little bit about that process, like how that happens.
Yeah, thanks, Lianne. So the painting, I've had a couple questions about what the painting is about, and it really is building off of what Ryan is saying. It's about receiving and transmitting at the same time. And so this entire experience really did feel like a feedback loop to me, because as an intuitive painter, I'm usually in my studio on my own, and I'm listening to music, and I'm in the groove, and I have experimented with this concept of voyeurism in the past by trying to go live on Instagram. And I found it so uncomfortable because I was so aware of the audience watching me. And so when I'm, let's say, recording video and I share it to my social media, which is something I do often, I'm still cognizant that someone is going to view it later. But when I have to create something live in the moment, there's a different reaction that's happening. And so this was an amazing opportunity to experiment with how that would feel. And I wasn't on my own in doing this, because I had the opportunity to respond to Deeps and Dani and Ryan and the rest of the team that's not here right now that was playing. And so I kind of see this painting as a bit of a narrative story. And if you look from the left to the right, I started painting just intuitively and just because this is how it landed, not because I planned it. But it feels like a narration of the music through the evening, and it starts there and it ends there because I had this entire panel to work with, but I moved through it in segments. And I remember at a certain point where we took a little bit of a break between sets, which was awesome. And in the moment, I really was in a trance and responding to a lot of the sounds and music and noise, and sometimes that affected some of the visuals. And I was telling you earlier, Lianne, that at one point, Steve played some kind of telephone sound. And so I started drawing all these squiggly telephone cord images, which is imagery that shows up in my work as an abstract visual artist to begin with, because it represents continuity and eternity and ongoing flow, but it had a different meaning in this sense. And that was just so exciting for me as an artist to experience that, because it was like same, but different.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, I love, and that's what's really also very impressive to me too, is that it's almost as though you have a palette that you pull from of the things that you do, in your own craft. And Ryan kind of speaking to how you're bringing your own voice to this. And then you kind of have that on the back burner and maybe tap into it a little bit. So in essence of that, but really it's something net new, that you maybe haven't ever played with. How much are you finding this is improv? I mean, like for any of you, how much is really new, or how much of it is kind of just practiced canned pieces that you're just bringing into the mix?
Well, I think for the painting, I'm definitely relying on the types of expression that I'm used to making in mark making. I do a lot of stamping. Okay. I didn't have a lot of opportunity here to do stenciling because I didn't use aerosol in the Casbah. But some of the imagery and patterns that show up in my work showed up here, but they just had a different meaning and they came out in a different way. And I think that some of the prompts that I wasn't expecting to come through the music and then the visual were things that I was trying to be aware of and kind of paint mindfully. But at the same time, I only found myself falling out of that trance once I ran out of material.
Oh, interesting.
So once I had to step away and realize I'm out of blue paint. I need to wash a paintbrush. I need to, actively be aware of the fact that I'm creating something that has materiality to it. It's kind of like a dance and a trance in the moment, but actually I do need paint, and I ran out of paint a lot.
Right.
And I had paint on my hands and on brushes and on things that I was stamping, and I had a step stool so I could go up and down and move. And there was very few instances where I stopped painting because the music was ongoing. And I think that maybe I'm going to assume that you folks were watching me and I was watching you and listening to you, and we were all in this feedback response.
Right. Yeah, I think that's incredible. Steve, actually just prior to our talk beginning, I don't know if you were all here to capture some of that, but they were jamming. I'm going to call it like a jam session, because that's essentially what you're doing. You're sitting down and just jamming and feeling each other out. How much of the audience then plays into that jam? Like, because there is another artist or another input, let's say, that's producing this work, and that is the audience. So how much of that is influencing? Where do you draw a line to allow that influence?
I think to be improvising to its full extent and to do it as well as you can, it's about the three of us. In that moment, it's about the three of us. I'm listening. The audience, I don't know. Not that I hate playing to an empty room. Don't get me wrong, but
Right.
but in terms of the actual act of making that kind of music, it's the time to really listen to what they're doing.
Got it.
Because you can get lost and get distracted, and there's moments that will happen.
Right.
But it's never particularly how can I make this room any different? It's
Right.
more reacting to both technically, dynamically, what keys we're playing in, rhythm. Is it time to change? Those kind of things. Is it getting a little long? Is this getting long in the tooth? Like my reaction to your question. It's really about us.
That's fair.
I had a mentor tell me, when I first started getting into improvisational music, the jam space is the temple. And whenever you're in that space, everybody is as vulnerable as they can ever be, and you need to be careful with them.
Right.
So if you're not truly listening, and it's hard.
For sure.
It is hard to truly listen the whole time, because I got all sorts of gadgets. I can just turn that on and,
Right.
and like you said, I think your question started with how much are you using like maybe familiar techniques or familiar sounds
Right.
or tropes or whatever. For me, in this experience, this is honestly the first time I've actually played an instrument with this crew. Normally, I just have effects pedals, so my entire devices are completely
It's
changed
not your
generally.
only job.
What's that?
It's
Sorry?
not your only job either.
Not my
Just-
only job.
oh.
Yeah, I'm also video switching. It was interesting to see, like, as we did a number of iterations during COVID, and we were video switching and practicing. You do develop techniques, even though you've kind of created this weird abstract device to like make this weird stuff. The forms come out of the technology
Right.
a little bit, and you can kind of start to develop techniques. Not unlike I've got techniques on the guitar or the bass or
Right,
whatever.
right.
So that it starts to like there's similarities in some of the previous stuff we've done to what we did on this night. And there was like 2 years apart, and I was like, oh yeah, I like this. I'm going to use this part of this
Okay.
technology to make this. So
This
some of
is
those
it.
techniques kind of bring themselves to the foreground, and you
Right.
start to use them.
Did you want to contribute?
Yeah, I just with the introduction of the audience, because the first time we did it, we was COVID, and we were doing it online and transmitting through live studio on YouTube. So there was no audience, and it was very interesting. And so we just filmed it, like self-filmed it, and having the audience in the Casbah. It gave me impostilius, I swear. Feeling like there's a self-consciousness, like, am I gonna
Yeah, fair enough.
But there's also so much processing that's happening as you're feeding off of what the what else is going on in the
Right.
room. And then when the audience clapped, I was overjoyed, because I was like,
It's like, oh,
are they just going to get up and leave? Like,
what was that?
yeah, impostilius is what that is.
That's great. I mean, I feel like it could be a distraction to some degree. Going from the first transmission where you're very much in a bubble and very much probably tuned into what's happening, then having to account for this now live audience that's participating in this. That's another factor, right? But I think that's the nature of how you're processing all of the input anyway. It's an additional input, so you just have to understand how to incorporate that into the work. And just a quick question as you were speaking there. I think it's very interesting too when you have this kind of cadence with one another. Are you finding that you're finding greater rhythm? Like any team that comes together, if it's a sports team or if it's a collaboration of artists, that eventually when you work together long enough, you start to understand and maybe anticipate what the other is going to do. Are you finding that this is something that's happening and that you anticipate because you understand each other's style? Or is it still quite fresh and quite new that you haven't gotten to that point yet where you feel like you can read one another's next move?
I think we're developing a sound.
Okay,
I feel like
interesting.
there is a possibly a sound that is like that rent that.
Yeah. I think it also comes with like the amount of trust that the three of us have in each other's musicianship. We perform in many different incarnations. Danielle is a songwriter in her own right, so we've had gigs where Ryan is playing pedal steel and I'm playing drums, and then I'm playing guitar and I'm leading the band and these guys are backing me. So there's a lot. We just kind of keep showing up,
No, that's great.
In all sorts of weird ways. Like it's never the same in a certain way.
No, that's great. And it keeps it fresh. Yeah.
So
And
there's a
adding
lot of
in-
trust amongst us,
Well, I'm going to say as the musician in like previous life, but not part of this trio that performs often, I just went in with like blind trust because when I was invited to participate in this activation, I was like, well, what kind of music are we playing? Because I paint to music all the time. and nobody could describe it. And now I'm like, oh, I know why you couldn't describe it, because it's like not a genre that I understand. And so it was super fun to just
I was
be
so
like,
worried we were going to let you down.
No,
It was like,
you
you're
didn't
like
let me
bopping around in
down.
your studio painting. I'm like, I don't know, get ready for this.
yeah, that should have been the first
But
disclaimer.
You were so into it though.
No, it was so great. And I feel like, I don't know that you were able to have the same experience that I did, because I feel like everyone was facing each other except for me.
Oh.
I was facing the painting.
Right, yeah.
So I'm listening and I'm only responding like to audio cues, but I could occasionally hear the audience like gasp or react. And that was such an exciting element that I wasn't expecting, because when I'm on Instagram Live, for example, there isn't that kind of feedback. There's just the vulnerability.
Right.
So I enjoyed the audience experience more than like the artificial presentation of a live experience through social media, because that feedback was like really exciting, and that helped me build trust, because I knew the audience is enjoying it, I'm enjoying it. Whatever you guys were doing was really cool that I could build off of, but I also am like trusting to a fault. Like I'm working on that. So in this case, it was good.
We had your back.
Yeah, you had my back. It was great.
Welcome to like the live performance team too.
Yeah,
it's
totally.
a rush,
Right.
right? It's
Yeah.
now it's a different thing altogether.
Yeah,
in the
and that
studio.
I think that's why people do
fun.
it, right? Is because you actually you're not in this kind of closed circuit loop, that there is actual response to the work that you're producing. And I think it's for those that are just stepping into the room, this is actually just an artifact, let's say, of what happened a year ago, and we are seeing what was captured and now is being streamed, and the actual piece that came out of that Tania had created, live painting in real time. And maybe we can actually just speak a little bit to the visuals. We're talking more about your production and that part of it, but the actual output, like if we're having a look at what's being represented here, I feel like there is a lot of technical overlay here. There are so many nuanced pieces that are going into this one thing. Can we speak a little bit to the technology and how it's actually produced in terms of the projection, and then what's going into the video overlay? I don't know if that's...
Sure, yeah. So the routing is such that there was 4 cameras in the room. It's a live switch, so we have a video switcher. So we're leaving stuff in like cross dissolve to create more of a kind of a dreamy kind of feel. Then that feed goes out to Jim Ruxton, he's got a MIDI controller, which he is affecting the images often based on the sound coming in. And he's got a couple of different kind of presets and foils, and then he's actually building stuff in real time. You can almost see him building stuff, and if you hang out with it, you can he's actually he's tweaking dials and he's figuring it out too. He's improvising with video, right?
Right.
It's not just like, he's like not just like coming in star wiping, he's got a kind of his own kind of palette, his own strange kind of palette. So it was pretty cool to watch him do that. And then we're taking those and we're actually we're projecting them in the room live too, right? So we're both recording it.
And
we're recording
and
it
projecting.
and projecting it into the room, right? So
a lot
we
of
had
moving
2
parts.
projectors doing that. So
Wow.
we had something just like hitting the ceiling for ambiance, and then how this originally worked is that the rolled up part was of the canvas was projected on. So Tania was painting and eventually met the projection, which was just this like beautiful, happy accident. You know?
Wow.
Yeah. So.
And that just happened in real time, and you said, "Oh,
Yeah.
this works. We're just going to leave it."
Yeah.
Oh,
and
I love that.
originally we were thinking that we were going to actually have the projection on that half of the canvas,
It got
but the
dwarfed
scale of this
in this room.
yeah, the scale of this room is just doesn't make
Oh,
sense.
it didn't allow.
But
Okay.
we didn't cut it off because maybe we're going to fill it with in another moment. So.
Right.
Yeah.
And we had
Sound
Jeff
like fun?
Haschelt from the Trues, and he has a project called Current Fantasy. So he was playing an analog synth, his setup, which is also gives beautiful texture as well to the visuals because of all the wires and plugs and keyboards and synths that are involved in this modular synthesizer, both out of like with music and visually is a lot.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah.
Star Trekian. Like it's like a whole
Yeah.
holodeck kind of thing.
Lots of moving parts. And Ryan, I know that as people are kind of going through this process and there are all of these pieces coming through, how much are you, for yourself, are you just kind of going into the flow, letting go, allowing everything to kind of happen? And how much are you able to stay in that zone? Because, I mean, Tania spoke about how she was pulled out of it because it was a tool that she no longer had. So that was kind of the stop moment. But for you, how much are you committing to it? And how much are saying, okay, I'm going to reserve some here. I'm just going to kind of sit at this moment here.
Well, ideally, I mean, you would want to be in that kind of flow state for the duration of the performance, but that's not realistic.
Right.
In this particular context, I feel like that's a sign that it's time to stop and listen and take things in. I feel in terms of improvisation, like there's often an expectation that an improviser has like a constant stream of consciousness, kind of often quite angular and inaccessible,
Right.
you know.
Yeah.
But in this particular context, being able to take an idea and expand it, and to take yourself out of the kind of logical way of thinking about music and about creating art. That being said, we did discuss the idea of receiving visual art as a kind of graphic score following the kind of linear forms and the
Okay.
progression of the music, and being able to interpret it that way.
Yep.
So there was a certain amount of, like the thinking brain is still involved in
Right.
kind of analyzing how
you're
to
gonna pull.
represent these forms, even if the flow state takes over in terms of
Right.
how to actually express it.
Love that. That's amazing. I think maybe we'll do one more question for you all. And if anyone has questions as well, I mean, from the audience, we're at, yeah, I think we can probably go because we're approaching the 9 o'clock time. So if you have questions, certainly feel free. I don't know if we have a roaming mic or if we're going to just
Mel
have you
has a
just
question.
Speak right up, yeah, and let us hear your beautiful voice.
I don't know if this is a question exactly, but I find this so fascinating coming in here. I had no clue what was going on.
Wow.
It appeases to just so many people. I don't know if I'm going to make sense with this, but when I listen to music, I don't listen to the lyrics. And same with like anything audio like this, like I'm not into it unless it has kind of like a significant kind of meaning, like a reference like this. I'm into it now. But this project seems to appeal to so many people who have different ways of viewing the world. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yes, 1,000%.
Like, from the artist side, it's like, oh my gosh, I love this, but then now I'm so drawn to different elements. But I feel this is such a cool project because like anybody in this space can appreciate something that they're drawn to.
Correct.
That's really nice. That's really nice feedback.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Mel. I love
Yeah,
that.
that's
Thank
great.
you.
And you couldn't have actually said it better because I think that's actually what it ends up happening when you have this kind of collaboration, is that it's not as though everyone is its own unique piece. It then becomes its own form, and then you as the viewer have the opportunity to bring what it is that you want to contribute to the piece as well, which is your experience with however you're learning or absorbing information, be it through whichever sense is happening to take the loudest note for you in the moment. Is there anyone else that might want to offer feedback or have questions? If you've just walked in, be happy to hear from you all. Or hi, Lucy. Come if you can. I mean, we can hear you, but feel free to come close. How are you?
I'm wonderful. Pleasure meeting you.
Likewise.
Actress and model.
Wonderful.
I'm also the P-Flag ambassador for the Dani region.
Very cool. Hello.
I'm being in this space and the creativity and all the happy faces. It just fills me with joy and artistic expression.
Love that.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Oh, thank you for coming, Lucy. Appreciate
you.
that. Thank you.
And if I can just bring it back to the top, and so we started
Sure.
with like the idea of these spaces and community. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the Hamilton Arts Council for giving
Right.
us our very first grant to even
Here,
try
here.
this.
Hamilton Arts
You
Council.
know,
Yes,
and
thank
our-
you.
we just. I can't thank them enough. This project wouldn't be possible. And then the Hamilton Enrichment Fund to come on the back end and give us the tools to do the post-production and do these kind
Right.
of things. So it's just, it's a nice thing to be included and to have a city that actually cares about the arts and does what they do.
1,000%.
Especially when we had to adapt it at the beginning in 2020. They're like, how are you going to do this? And we're like, we're going to do it this way.
Yeah. And they were like, go for it. That sounds
We're gonna go for it.
interesting.
They were very supportive and very excited for us to make this into a live stream, which is what it's still up on YouTube if anybody wants to take some drugs
Yeah.
and watch it.
Yeah, it's a good one. It's a good hang. The original footage from because we were in the main space and there was just three of us, and she's on the 8-foot grand, and it's in the dead of COVID, and it's something else. It's really just transportive. It's it was a scary time, and we had this weird space to kind of create this thing. We're just kind of toiling away in the dark.
It was a 9-hour setup. It was a 9-hour setup.
Yeah, when
with
we were-
all of the cameras.
Yeah, because it was just the two of us, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
So essentially it's just been the two transmissions then. And
Yes.
and are there plans for a very formalized third or
Yeah, I think in September
I think September
we're
we're
looking
gonna
at the
do
Mule
another
Spinner to do
cocktail,
that.
yeah.
So.
Okay. And do we have plans for where that's going to be?
Sorry, somewhere on these grounds, I
Okay.
want the Mule Spinner. I got to talk Glenn into it. But he loves this project. He
healer.
really does care about this project. And I'd be
Healing.
remiss to not mention him as well, because all of this video equipment,
Yeah,
and
he
he's
was very
switching and all this
supportive.
stuff was Glenn Marshall doing live streaming during COVID
Yeah.
and going, okay, you know what? Just you guys got this weird idea? Run. Just go with it.
And
So-
Rob was very, and we
and
have
Rob
a whole
Zeidler gave us
upstairs
space.
to ourselves, which would never have happened because of weddings or what would normally
Right.
happen in COVID,
Sure.
or not non-COVID times. So it was very interesting.
I just wanted to remind everybody that if you wanted to follow along and figure out where we're going to do something next, there are postcards around with a QR code that you can snap, sign up for the newsletter, stay informed, follow us on social media. Apostoleus Canada is our account, but also individually, we're all sharing and reposting. So if you're part of the conversation, then you'll have an opportunity to see what comes next.
Yeah.
And there's actually some full documentation about what the hell this
There
is.
is full documentation.
So if you need some diagrams, if you're still confused,
wanna-
I think what we'll probably do too is just restart.